Okay, well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to coaching. Today we talk about the speaking the language benefit. This is huge. I mean, this is one of those like core, skill sets that you got to have. And it takes a little bit of practice. I think it takes some structure to how you communicate and thinking it through. Certainly some rehearsal. So let's go to page 140. I think that's where I'm going to start us off. May jump around a little bit. Let me see if I can grab that section real quick. So this is all part of the communication section. I hope this has been beneficial. This is probably my favorite chapter of the whole coaching book. So here, let's do this. Grab a blank piece of paper. I was thinking about this last night as I was getting kind of my mind ready about what we could talk about, wishing that we were together so I could write on a whiteboard and having just kind of an open discussion. But let's do this. Let's do this. Write down on a blank piece of paper. I've got 5 questions that you need to answer. Okay. So the first one is, what was your last big purchase? What was your last big purchase? Okay. All right. Here's more around that. Kind of some yes and no stuff. Did you research? Did you ask others? Did you study it? Now, this one could be phrased a different way. So this one you need to describe. This is not yes or no. What were you hoping to get from this? What was the reason? What was the benefit? And obviously, we're talking about speaking the language of benefit. So I'm asking you, if this last big purchase, what benefit did it give you? Or what were you hoping to get from it as a benefit? In other words, why did you make this purchase? And I hope some of you can kind of share that. There's another one. Did you find yourself kind of justifying why you were making this purchase? Did you find yourself saying, yeah, I need to do this because. Oh, thanks, Joe. You're going to write it out for me. Wow. So yeah, here they are, Joe. What was your last big purchase? Did you research, ask others, or study it out? And what were you hoping to gain from this or get from this? What was the benefit? What was the why? Why did you make this big purchase? And then the last one, did you find yourself justifying it? So anybody want to share some of their answers to this? Start off with what was your last big, I guess you don't want to say, that's okay. Lately, I've been, so I don't know if you guys know, if you've been to my house, I've got a mat at the front door. Tammy bought it, and it says, "Please hide packages from husband." That's the mat at the front door. And I said, well, I've never done, always know what I'm buying. And she's like, oh, really? You've never snuck something in the back door of the music studio? Because I got a walkout basement door that goes to the music studio. So it is pretty easy to go from truck to music studio without her knowing. And yeah, so maybe some of you want to stay confidential on what you purchase. So Leslie says a new HVAC. Audrey said my house. So they're keep them coming, you guys. Sochi, a car. Yes, green energy, functional. To my use, clean, good. So there was this, there's a seminar that came around like 20 years ago. It's like psychology of sale. And it gave me, it stuck with me for this long. And I remember memorizing 7 layers of why, because when you're interviewing someone and discovering, you just keep asking in different ways, why, and you kind of get down to the heart of the matter. And I thought it was very interesting that, we don't always talk about, some of those deeper reasons, but they're really big motivators. They're huge motivators in why we make a purchase. So today is all about taking what we do as agents, attaching the benefit to what we do, and then communicating that effectively. And when you do that, you build value. Okay, so say it again, but problem, solution, value. So we talk solutions, value is realized. Okay, so on page 141, let's march through that. I'll share screen. 141, just some fill in the blank here. Okay, right here. So when when blank is communicated and realized, cost is substantiated. So clearly this is what? Benefit, right? Obvious. So when benefit is communicated and realized, cost is substantiated. Prudent sellers will only see value when they see problems blank. What do you think? Problem solved, right? Problem solved. Okay. Let's jump down. In addition, let's not forget that we are hired to sell property for the highest possible return, meaning the blank realize is central to our value. What do you think that is? What's that word? The blank realize is central to our value. Okay, you probably got a couple things in your, yep, Angie, you're right, it's net. Okay, so the better we are at communicating value, the more likely we are to get a listing. This graph here is kind of showing a visual of what I'm trying to communicate here, is that when the value is realized that's exceeding the cost, then we don't have objections to commission. But when the value, so when the actual value is here, but perceived value is here, then what happens to the cost? Okay, what people want to pay? Well, clearly this is where we get objections, okay? So, we want to be in this group here, okay? That's why people pay, sometimes, like, look, we've had commissions that are $500,000. Why would someone do that? Because the bottom line is it's better to spend the $500,000 because they net a better experience, a better bottom line by spending that money than they do not spending it. And I mean better, right? So that means it's more. Value is exceeding cost. Okay, so that's what we're all after. That's the visual reminder. Let's go to the next page. So actually go over to page 143. These are things you have to memorize, okay? So we got to memorize these 5 things right here. And I'm going to also give you fundamental benefits for buyers. I want you to write those down, but you have to memorize this. Okay, so we're going to call these core or fundamental benefits. It's really, what's in it for me? This is the client's point of view. Why do we do what we do? Why pay the commission? Why do we have all these tools, services, technologies, people, staff, right? Why do we do all this? Okay. Number one reason is the highest possible net to our seller clients. Second one, quickest sell or within a time frame. There's another way to say that, reduce the hassle of selling, the inconvenience of selling. It's the same thing. Or if it's tied to a new construction purchase or another home, clearly we say what that time frame is. The next one is to lower legal risk. It's a big one. You're talking about a massive transaction that has contract language to it. It is a lot of complexity around it. We want to reduce the chances of litigation and reduce and lower the amount of legal risk. Okay, that's why we do, again, fundamental benefit. Next one, highest possible price. Yes, it's akin to number one. It's the equation of number one. we have the highest possible price with the least amount of concessions. We have the best terms, including the commission paid and costs. And the price is part of the equation of net. I put it in there because everyone thinks this, right? I want the highest possible price for my home. So we're speaking their language also. The next one, which I think, which kind of gets lost in a hot market, for last 5 years, we've been so hot, we forget about this one, but we increase our chance of selling. So when you're pulling new data, and that data suggests that inventory is rising, fast, that the sales are not happening at the same pace, this one is a big one. They might be worried about whether or not they're going to sell at all. Okay, so remember, these are our fundamental and core benefits. Okay, now the trick here is to talk about a feature and translate the benefit back to one of these core benefits. Okay, that's the trick. So how do I talk about what we do? And then as I speak about what we do, I naturally communicate why we do it. Remember, I'm going to jump back up to 50,000 feet here. The reason we do this is because we're substantiating value. Okay, so we're speaking the language of benefit, speaking the language of why. And when we do that, value is naturally realized. Okay, so that's why we do that. I'm going to have you let me stop sharing for a second and have you write this down. Write down somewhere, maybe on page 142, there's some space there. By the way, the new books are going to have space to write. But on 142, maybe write this down. Let's write down fundamental benefits to buyers. Okay, so core benefits to buyers. You know what? I've got 4 of them. Before I give them to you, see what you can light up the chat, and you tell me what you think the core benefit or value is to buyers. Okay, the reason buyers hire us. We're getting ready for a barbecue here on the 3rd floor today. So what is it? So, we already took the 5 there on page 143 are sellers. Okay, Leslie's got the first one. Okay, Leslie's got the first one. Find the right home. Okay, Linda has number 3. Negotiate the most favorable terms. So yeah, not overpay. Negotiate the most favorable term. Now we got to be careful. That doesn't always mean we get, below value or something, right? Or below market, but we negotiate the most favorable terms. Okay, so we've got number 1 and number 3. Let's see. Best property, Linda, is same as and John. Let's see, same as find the right home. Negotiating the most favorable terms. I think I could probably put contracts into part of that. Okay, Bob's got number 4, which is the same as number 3 for sellers, which is lower the amount of legal risk. Okay, lower the amount of legal risk. So we've got one more, and perhaps it's, it's reflective of a time where we were having to beat out other buyers. But number 2 is to win the bid. Okay, so find the right home, negotiate the most favorable terms, least amount of legal risk. Very, very similar to what we see for sellers. And then I threw in there win the bid because it's very, very possible that we could be competing sometimes against other buyers who want the same property. Okay, what do you think? Now we got to memorize those. You got to commit them to memory. Okay, so I should be able to ask you guys at any point in time, tell me what are the core benefits to a seller, and then you should rattle off 5. I should say, what are the core benefits to a buyer, and you should rattle off those 4. Okay, you guys with me? We could stop the training right now and go like, that's the take home. That's the gem of today. That's the thing that needs the most attention, is to memorize these. Some of you already have. All right, so we're going to make it a little more challenging. Now let's take any kind of product or service or tool. And I want to recognize that there are intermediate or leading, matter of fact, I need to call this, I want to call it leading benefits. You guys write that down, leading benefits. I'm going to start off with one, and then we're going to get more complicated. Let's take something that a lot of us understand, a lot of us do. It's a good thing to do for sellers, but it's got a unique thing about it. So write down open house. A lot of us do open house. By the way, is Kim on here? Kim Dixon or Peter? Hey, Kim is on. Hey, Kim, can you talk to me for a minute? Hello, Kim Dixon. Can you talk for a minute? Are you where you can chat? Unmute. Going once. All right. Well, I'll tell everyone what you told me. Okay. Open houses really, really work. They've always worked well, but they work really well today, like they have in the past. It's a very simple thing. Yes, it's time consuming. Sure, you could delegate it. You could put another agent there. But when you hold an open house, you meet people, and you kind of meet people on Main Street where business is done, metaphorically speaking, and people are out looking, they're shopping, they have places to sell, they need help. When they meet you and they meet a great Berkshire Hathaway, well-trained agent who has the knowledge and understanding and the wisdom behind it, I mean, you guys are magnets to help people. So I'd get out there and I'd meet people. It's a great way to do it. And open houses are phenomenal. So Kim's advice is simply hold open houses. Okay. All right. Now let's take that. Let me think about how do you communicate what an open house's purpose is? Okay. What does it do? Like what's its superpower? What if open house was an Avenger? Yeah, Joe. If open house were an Avenger, what would its superpower be? What does it do better than any other thing we do? Okay. This is where I really, really wish I had a whiteboard. Because what I would do is on one side, I'd have our fundamental benefits, okay? Then I'm gonna have things like exposure, okay? So we get more exposure, we drive a higher net because we get a higher sales price, correct? You're right, you guys? But what is ahead of exposure is maybe what I'm looking at. Yeah, it brings people together. You know, there's eyes on property. Yeah, these are great one-liners that we can say. We get more eyes on our property. I think you're still missing, though, the bullseye. I think you're missing the bullseye. Tell me what an open house's superpower is. Because I could say other things like the MLS has exposure. Right? I mean, syndication has exposure. So what does an open house do that is so uniquely powerful to itself? Like it does it better than anything else. You know, it wins in a fight, right? So yes, exposure is that intermediate thing that drives higher net. Okay. An open house is one way to get exposure. Okay, Ron is getting close here. Let me give you what I would think the best answer is, and clearly I've probably thought this way more than anyone else, but it's neighborhood awareness. Okay, that's what it does better. You know, you put your signs up in the neighborhood. So how are you going to beat that? So the reason we do open houses is to drive neighborhood awareness, which increases our exposure, which drives our better chance of having a higher net, which is what we want, don't we? That's how we communicate it, just like that. Okay, just like that. The reason we do an open house is because it drives neighborhood awareness and increases our exposure, which improves our odds and chances of getting the best net possible, which is what we want, isn't it, John? Right? Isn't it, Angie? Isn't it, Ron? See, so we wrap that up in kind of a tie down that's affirming the benefit. Okay, so that's the pattern. You see that? That's the pattern. I'm gonna say it one more time. Okay, the reason we do an open house is because it increases neighborhood awareness. drives neighborhood awareness, which improves our exposure, which increases our chances of having the highest possible net possible, or I could say the highest sales price possible. And that's what we want, right, Soshi? Right? And everyone's like, yeah, that's what we want. When you speak the language of benefit, you speak the language of why you do it. And when you speak language of benefit, value is realized, objections are decreased, trust is built, and ultimately you progress, right? It's a very, very important skill. Let's take something else. Joe, I wish we could kind of like have a spin the wheel of every product, tool, and service we have for sellers, and we just go, and it would land on plop, right? So since we already have something in on page 143, maybe we'll do that and then go to something else. But we have on page 143, share screen. Here we have the visual of what Brookshire, sorry, you guys, gosh, syndication kind of looks like, okay? And I think we might need to reword this, right, Joe? I don't know that we're saying like List Hub is the vendor, but we're not really promoting, say, List Hub. I think we decided that we would name this like Berkshire Hathaway Syndication. Is that correct?
Just a distribution method.
Yeah, okay. So this is where it touches. This is in your listing presentation, right? It's in your listing presentation. So the trick here is, again, to speak the language of benefit, okay? So a poor explanation of this would be something like, and here you can see we use List Hub and syndication. See, no seller has any idea what you just said and why it matters. Okay, unless they understand the word syndication, you're not speaking very clearly. Here's a better explanation. So Berkshire Hathaway, we employ, I say we employ a syndication program. That job is to normalize property data. I don't know if you guys knew that, by the way. Okay, put all data in it. So like if you've got square foot in lot, but you've got 0.58 in others, it normalizes data across the country, not just Utah, but the country. This includes property photos and information. This allows standardization, normalization of a format so that other websites can use it. While these various websites display your property information, each visit is tracked and given us back this vital data to guide our decisions through our marketing process. Now that's what it does. Why do we do it? Because it drives exposure, which increases our chance of having a higher net. You see that kind of like the association of? So this is the feature in which we have as a service to our seller clients. It drives exposure. And it also helps us with data about how many people are seeing this property so that we can track it and make informed decisions about our marketing process and perhaps our sales price, which is really critical, I would say, isn't it? It's critical to getting the best bottom line. Okay. So see, so this is where I'm marching this through. You can see in this illustration, this allows us to reach a large potential buyer pool, generating more interest, more showings, best buyer for the property. Like you said earlier, you need top dollar, correct? Yeah, we agree. See, we at Berkshire Hathaway agree. And that is why we're hired. What we do better than anything else is to help people realize the best bottom line and the highest net. So, and maximum exposure can help with that, can't it? So there's the tie down. Okay, you like that? Is that helpful? Have you thought those patterns through on other things? So that's taking our Berkshire Hathaway syndication system. That's what I would call it. So let's rename it. This needs an edit, right? I'll edit it for the next version of the book. I mean, it's not, look, if you say List Hub, that's fine. It's just know that it's a vendor. The vendor is we hire the system so that we can track views of pages and we can syndicate it out to other websites. But in order to do that, you have to normalize the data, including the photos, okay? And then we need to track it, the stuff that we don't always think about. So that's what it does. Now, why do we do it? Increase exposure and drive the highest net. Yeah, boy, I wish everybody were here for this. I wish everyone could hear. Now, that's why we're recording it. So maybe we ought to email out the recording, Joe. Let's take something else we do. What else? Anybody want to suggest a tool or service that we provide, and then we can track it back to something? Track it back to our core benefit? I mean, I've got one in mind, but you guys tell me. Yeah, I like that, Kim. I like memorizing kind of the one-liners because I can pull them down and inject them into an authentic conversation. I don't like memorizing scripts. I like memorizing patterns, and I like memorizing the one-lines because it helps me because I've practiced it, right? So I don't know how many times I've said increase exposure, which drives net, and the way to say that. I've said it so many times, it's second nature. And so these, things like saying, finding you the right home. Okay, that is taken, by the way, from the survey on page 114 that we did with the NAR survey that they do every year. Okay, so they spend $1 million a year on that survey. It's spot on. And people need to find the right house. So we say things like that. And I like Kim's line there, brings buyers and sellers to you. Okay. So, that's what so it simplifies it, which is our next, kind of one of our next little skill sets here on page 145. When you simplify your message, you're communicating better. Okay. So let's take something like, okay, if we took professional photos. All right, love this one. Write this one down. Professional photos. Professional photos. Okay, guys, tell me why that matters. And how does that have anything to do with the core benefits? Professional photos. And let's just say it's the whole idea of capturing what the property is. Video, photos, twilight, overheads, drone. What in the world does that have to do with the core benefit? How do I march that through and land back on a core benefit? So I love what Kim has to say here. One chance to make a first impression. I'm going to piggyback on that because this is why I say I love this one about photos. Look, where do you think your first showing is? Is that when they unlock the key box and walk in? No, it's not, is it? Not in so you'd say, look, in 2022, and it has been for some time, your first showing is online. And that's where, and this is where I would add in what Kim is saying. We've got one chance to make a great first impression. Those photos really, really matter. Okay, they get a lot of views. I may go back and show someone, look at syndication, look at the page views of these images. Our first showing is online. You need to memorize that. You need to memorize that. Our first showing is online. And then we have one chance to make a good first impression. And the better that exposure is, here's the tie, the better chance we have of increasing our bottom line. There's your tie-in. Okay. We don't have, look, do we just want exposure? I guess regardless of what, no. I'm not going to get political. No, I'm not. I was tempted. I'm not. But let's just say, look, exposure is just exposure. It could be bad exposure, right, Joe? I mean, so we don't really just want exposure. All right. We want the most positive exposure. Write this one down too. Photos emphasize and highlight the property's most valuable features. Okay, emphasizes, highlights, say those things. What do photos do? Emphasize and highlight the property's most valuable features. Or put your property in the best light, which is kind of funny because light matters in photos, you know? So, but that's what photos do. Now, what's the benefit? Because it gives us good exposure, positive first impression, like Kim said. Okay, the best first impression matters because your first showing is online. The better we do that, the better we drive our net. Oh, I wish. Look, if I could have my way right now, I'd have all this like in everyone's earbuds. Just over and over again. Tie it back to a core benefit and you got something special. Okay, let's see what I'm missing here. Yeah, I like what Leslie had to say there. Same kind of thing. Look, it's the first thing is online. The pics really, really matter. Yep, your first showing is online. Pictures speak 1,000 words, right? I mean, we all go looking for, we thumb through the pictures, right? And then look, the next indicator is whether or not they do end up being a physical showing. Look, in the last 5 years, I can't think of someone who's only seen the property physically in person, you know, for the first time. Everybody saw it online first. It means the pictures had to make the cut, right? Okay. Yeah, and Kim's putting a lot more strategy to the kind of pictures that show in the beginning, because people's attention span can sometimes wane. We want to put the best thing forward at the beginning. So those first 5, 10 pictures really, really matter. Getting down to John, we all can see the difference between professional photos. Yeah, we sure can. And you know what? Why not contrast that in your listing presentation? You know, these are photos that are very poor. It's not highlighted the property's features well. It's a really bad example. Okay, so it's kind of like presenting the problem. Okay, so if we don't put the attention here, and that means spend the money. Okay, we don't spend the money to get it right, then that's the kind of end result we get. And it's going to hurt the bottom line. Who knows what that could cost you? It could cost you showings, right? Cost you showings and offers. And ultimately, that's not what we want. So contrast that to some really great images that have highlighted the property's most important features, most valuable features, okay? Putting the property in the best light, because our first showing is online. This gives us the best exposure, okay? Not just exposure, but the best exposure, which will drive our net. That's the pattern, guys. That's the pattern. That's how you speak the language of benefit. I'm going to piggyback on something John said about how would you like to see your home portrayed. Back when I needed to make a living solely on sales, okay. One of my best tips. I'm looking around my office to see if I still have a sample. I don't know where that is, but I want you to imagine this. I want you to imagine a 3-ring binder with every sample of every listing thing that I could come up with. Okay. So, I mean, it's the postcards, it was the announcements, it's the flyer for the open house, it was the newsletter, it was the email sample, it was the marketing resource blast, it was everything that I could come up with for every property I've ever listed. Okay. It kind of reminds me of like picking announcements for, say, like a wedding or something, or a big event, company, event. And the person with all the marketing comes up and they just say, hey, here's a couple, like binders of samples. So to use John's, which really kind of an alternate close technique, which we kind of say, like, which one would you prefer? Okay. So instead of saying like, this one's obviously bad and this one's obviously good, which, kind of a leading question, this is clearly better photos. If we took the same thought of having a question around what would you prefer, but they're all good choices, then we can end up leading them through their decision process like this. Take a look at some of these samples. Notice that this property also has a view from the back deck, similar to yours. Which one of these layouts do you like best? So what I'm just showing samples. I'm sifting through the book, you know? I'm just sitting there turning pages going, how about this one? Right? How about this one? How about this one? Build a sample binder of marketing. Jamie's gonna kill me. Is Jamie on here? Jamie's gonna kill me, Joe. She's not. Yes, she is. Because everyone's gonna run to Jamie and go, hey, can I get some samples? And I'm gonna be in big trouble. Yeah, walk into, oh boy. Don't you say I said. And
Yeah,
maybe you guys should stagger your request.
Get them on the intranet. Just download all. There's a bunch of materials you can download on the intranet.
There you go. All right, build a sample binder. It's a great way to say, which one do you prefer? I kind of like this one. You know, this is a golf course property, very similar to yours. You know, I kind of like this layout. What do you think? Or how about this one? Or there's this option. What a great way. See, you know what else you're communicating? You're communicating, look how powerful we are. We're Berkshire Hathaway. Look at the quality of our marketing. Look at the properties we've represented, right? It's kind of like showing a resume, but you're not posing it that way. You're posing it from the standpoint of which one of these you would like to choose, okay? And you can see the benefit of it because it's taking this idea of photos matter, because good exposure matters, because we all want the best net, okay? And then you're presenting it with samples. It's a great idea, okay? Get your samples ready. Carry your samples with you. And I would have it in old school form because it's just easy. It's portable, you know, boom, put it in front of them and watch what happens. They're mesmerized by the pictures. Like, you know, as simple as, you know, that sounds, they're going to be looking at the houses. They're probably going to ask you, oh my gosh, where is that house? And you'll be like, hey, focus, back to the flyer. That's what'll happen. Okay. You want to take another one? We include samples in listing presentation. Awesome. Yep, Kim's spot on. Okay. So we did open house. We did professional photography. Okay, how about this one? Because we're going to run out of time. I'm going to take my favorite one. So let's go backwards. Give me something for lowering amount of legal risk. Go backwards. So what do we do to lower the amount of legal risk? So what's the feature that we have that lowers the amount of legal risk? Isn't this fun? This is so fun. Where would you rather be? Right? This is so good. Okay, I like it. Knowledge of REPC, in-house attorney. Yeah, stretching my brain here. Our contracts, legal documents, contracts if done properly. Okay. Where is your, you're this. You carry that with you. Okay. It's your library of forms. It's very complex. Closing documents, disclosures, agreements, representation agreements, agency, clauses, right? All the agreement language. So instead of saying, so I like legal assets or legal documents, Ron, I like that, but think about the assets, okay? Because we paid for these in some form or fashion. The brokerage has paid to give you legal assets to use. Not all those assets are available to every agent. So I think it's important to sometimes make that distinction. Don't be arrogant, still want to be approachable, but still be real about what the problems are. Okay. Legal problems are real. I mean, look, trust me. I mean, we've been very, very, very fortunate. I think we're really good. On the bottom, look, on the first rung here, our agents are so well trained. We are not like other companies where there's 1,000 agents who've been in the business less than 3 years. Okay. We're very well trained group of agents. Then our triage process with admin and broker oversight on the way that when contracts get presented, what if we injected some more of this into our listing presentation to talk about legal protections, the triage process, and the eyes that go on your agreements, your disclosures, to make sure that not only the contract's enforceable, but we're not finding ourselves in a legal position where you're exposed to litigation, okay? And you say, it's not just my eyes, but it's the eyes of our admin and our brokerage and our broker, okay? That puts eyes on every document that we submit, okay? We have document housing that allows us to do this, or software that allows us to share documents in-house and get the audit and triage process going. We have legal assets and an in-house attorney that helps oversee it. We've got a crazy principal broker who loves the law more than, like going to Disneyland. I mean, you guys wouldn't believe this, but if I had my choice of doing like the 3-hour business seminar with everyone here live, or going to a Rush concert, well, let's see, Neil Peart is passed away, so maybe that would be really cool to bring him back to life. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, I'd rather do the seminar. I would rather do that than anything. Look, we're passionate about legal protections for our clients. Very, very passionate about that. And we take it very seriously. But to do that, you have to put your money where your mouth is. You got to put your time and priority, okay, to the process. You can't just say things like, oh, it's important to us, okay? So talk through that. So we're talking about legal risk as a triage process. There's admin, there's staff that oversee this. There's a software program. So now that's what we do. And also, understanding the complexities of every form, okay? And then marching them back to this all is for why. Why do we do this? To lower the amount of litigation risk and the legal risk involved in a real estate transaction. Okay, problem, solution, value, okay? Problem, litigation, solution, everything we just said, that's why we do it. That's lowering legal risk, okay? So that's speaking the language of benefit in that pattern, again, using legal risk as our benefit, okay? I'm gonna dig into the weeds again for the millionth time in case someone has missed this, but don't miss an opportunity to do it better. When someone asks a question that can be answered by the contract, don't just answer it. Reach for the form. Turn to the form. Turn it upside down. Point to the language that answers their question. Show them your proficiency. Don't just answer the question. When you do that, you show value instead of just talking value, okay? Okay. And Kim is right. Ongoing training is key because there are so many changes that go on in our industry. Okay. You know what kind of just blows my mind that people don't understand. Okay. And I think it's really important for listing agents to understand this. For that matter, even buyers. But when's the last time we really talked about clear cooperation and MLS policies and how a property can be posted on the MLS? So if we're not aware of the problem, then you have no value in the solution because there is no problem, right? So we should talk through that also. Posting something to the MLS, as simple as that sounds, has some real specific guidelines and rules to it. And if we don't follow them, we can't participate with the MLS. Not just their property, but the company as a whole and you as an agent. That becomes a very big problem for our seller, right? Posting something properly to the MLS is critical, and understanding those guidelines, critical. And they might say, like what? Okay, and then that's where you can lay out the terms of clear cooperation and what that means. Okay, so this is starting to strategize around when do we put the property on the MLS, okay? Which you may be grabbing the exclusion form for a time being so you can get your marketing right before it goes on the market. I still think no matter what the marketing conditions are, that's a discussion about strategy and timing I should have with every single seller, regardless of marketing conditions. See, what we shouldn't be doing is hurrying up, limping into the MLS, then calling the marketing department going, I need something by tomorrow, right? When we could have just as easily paused, get the right images, the right photography, the right marketing pieces done without the stress of a deadline that's too quick, okay? And then launching onto the MLS when it's appropriate, right? Of course, okay, of course. And that all has to do with presenting the problem of the regulations of the MLS and that your solution to that and options that they can pick, and then the why we do it, okay? Okay. Scott, yeah, go ahead. I'm not sure what the sheet is, but thank you for sharing.
I don't know if you can open it, but it's just a list of every course I've taken over the last 5 years, and it is an extensive list, and I bring it to appointments now.
Wow. Okay, I'm looking at it now, guys. It's got, yeah, stucco, specialty, fiduciary, DocuSign, new RepC class, yeah, luxury. Yep, I like it. Buyer brokerage, MLS statistics. Very good. Legal court decisions. Interesting. Nice. Yeah, it's a great idea. So that's taking your education as what you have and then why we have it benefits back down to the core benefit. I like that, Scott. Nice job. It's a good idea. Really appreciate you sharing that. Okay, I think we're going to put a bow on this now. So gosh, we talked about syndication, open houses, photos, buyer benefits. Gosh, and we just added in, you know, what does training mean and how does that translate to a benefit? I asked you about your own purchases and why you made them. Did you study them? Did you justify it? Did you ask? You know, I mean, what process did you go through? What benefit were you hoping to gain by this purchase? So hopefully you start to kind of see the pattern, memorize the pattern, memorize those one-liners. This is a huge skill set, I think, for everybody. Why don't you go ahead and do this final thing before we go. Let's do the takeaway. It's the one thing that you really, really want to remember or implement that you got from this 45 minutes, 50 minutes we spent together. What's your key takeaway? What's the one thing that sticks? Go ahead and put that in the chat. Okay, so it seems like we need to do some memorization. Yeah, I mean, just write them down. You know, maybe they go on a whiteboard in your office, a 3x5 card, in your phone, in notes, something like that. Yeah, images are vital to buyers, opportunity to grow and be at a boring open house. Yeah. Yeah. I think Kim's poking a little bit of fun here, guys. If that's another takeaway today. Do an open house. You want business? We've got plenty of listings. Contact the listing agents and hold them open. Yep. You'll be unboring because you'll have business to do. Yep. Okay. Hey, Joe, go ahead and stop recording.